Well, इंटरनेशनल विमेंस डे पर हम लगातार आपके लिए बहुत सारे लीडरशिप वॉइसेस फ्रॉम विमेन लेकर आ रहे हैं सीरीज में। आज मेरे साथ बहुत खास मेहमान जुड़ रहे हैं, अनुराधा राजदान, who's the executive director HR at HUL, one of the big FMCG giants, and really to understand her journey and the way she sees the women's role in her organization and overall as leaders at large. I think we will want to delve deeper into that conversation. Anuradha, good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to have you on my show. First and foremost, we were discussing and we've been trying to understand first the journey of each of the women leaders we are talking to, the challenges along, how have you lived through this journey so far? What were some of your high points or low points and how did you deal with it? Just give us a sense to start with of your life and life of a woman as a leader.
Thanks, Swati. It's a pleasure to be here. I've had the privilege of being born into a family of professionals who always encouraged me to be whatever I wanted to be. And there were no expectations laid out that I had to sort of follow a profession or another. Quite early in my sort of journey, I discovered a passion for HR. And I sort of went on to do my MBA in human resources after graduating in economics and joined HUL about 22 years ago now. And since then, it's really been the most fulfilling journey and the making of me as a professional. It's really in large part thanks to the organization and the support that I've had from my family that has allowed me to come this far. As an organization, HUL has been hugely supportive in terms of early training, giving me very diverse and challenging opportunities, supporting me in moments where, as a dual working family, we needed the flexibility, and grooming and mentoring me for leadership positions. I have had the privilege of working in London for 6 years, which really taught me how to work across cultures and sort of balance the demands of work and life while sort of raising a young son. And like I said, it's been the organization and my family that's sort of allowed me to get to where I am, and I was grateful.
Okay, great. That's very encouraging to know the kind of support you sought and you got from your world, your family or your organization. I think that's very, very important. And we must admit and acknowledge that every time we see that we have done well and they've been responsible or partly, in many ways responsible, as I said, for our growth in that context. But, the biggest challenges that you think women today face, and as you said, you've been able to balance the work life. As I was talking to almost all women leaders in this series about how they manage through their journey of maybe, prioritizing some days, and how did you actually do that to attend your son's PTM versus a boardroom that you had to go for, and did you, what were your ways to handle such situations where you were needed at one place at one point, but you had also the similar kind of role that was expected of you in the other place? So that balance, how was it for you along this journey?
Thanks, Swati. I think, more than work-life balance, I like to think of it as work-life integration. Because if one sort of walks or sort of operates with the belief that work is going to be 100% work and time with the family or time off work is going to be completely devoid of work, that's not how it is in reality. And I learned quite early that, the more comfortable that I was with the idea, but there will be times when my personal life and commitments might sort of float into my work calendar, and there will be times when I have to take time off to be at my son's school or take him to doctors, or like little children need their parents. Equally, there will be times on weekends when I will take the occasional phone call or do email, because it allows me to be more efficient as a whole. So I think it's that sort of mental makeup, where you work it out for yourself, that there will be this integration of work and life priorities, as I call it. Second is, I think it's about resilience and resourcefulness. From learning from mentors and role models, I really reached out for the support of my family, my in-laws, my parents, and really built a support network around me, which I was fortunate to be able to create. And that allowed me to, travel overseas or make sure that my son was well looked after. And most of all, it's really my husband and I who balance it out. Sometimes he takes the burden, sometimes I do. But the one thing that makes a difference is the resilience and capacity that you build for yourself. Because very often women self-select themselves out. I realized that when you build your resilience and capacity in moments where you feel low, like after maternity, when you're coming back to work after a maternity break, it's at that time when you reach out for support and build that support, that you can keep this balance going.
That's very critical. And I think you, at the role where you are, I think with your own experience, you empathize and understand the situation better for many of the women colleagues that perhaps would come to you to seek help. And I think to understand that this is the time they really need that confidence, that welcome back into the organization with the challenges that they are dealing with. I think that that's very, very critical and important. I must compliment you for that. And organizations like yours, I mean, who pioneered what diversity means in India Inc. Give us a sense of what has been the HUL journey. And, through HUL, many other organizations can take cues and incorporate that in their culture. So give us some examples and ideas that HUL has inculcated in its DNA.
So first of all, I think the business case for a diverse organization has been well established. And as an FMCG business, women form a predominant part of our consumer base, and therefore it makes absolute sense that they are well represented amongst our employer base and in our ecosystem. As HUL, we started on this journey of being a gender balanced organization more than a decade ago. And since then have been able to shift the needle from being 18% of our managerial workforce as women to today 44%. And we are committed to reaching the golden 50% in the next few years. I think what's allowed us to get here is really the result of a very holistic and consistent effort. And this has been led by leaders over the last decade. And it starts with putting a stake in the ground and making a commitment that we will be gender balanced. And then it's almost a repeatable model, because if you do it for 1 or 2 years, you'll hire and you're more likely to lose more than you hire. But I think doing this over a sustainable basis means that we've got to create a repeatable model. And that starts with creating headroom. It starts with making sure that there is supply, ensuring that we're looking at broad-based growth of gender balance across functions in the organization, including harder functions like sales and manufacturing, which are traditionally male-dominated. And like I said, just making appointments isn't enough. We worked on making women successful in HUL, just like we do for all our employees. And therefore, at critical points like maternity, where we were seeing exits, and we launched a comprehensive maternity and paternity support. And now 97% of our women hires come back after maternity. It's a myth that women leave to stay at home. Women today have as many career opportunities as men, and most women whom we saw leaving are leaving for better opportunities. And therefore, it's important to not stereotype and assume that women leave because they want to stay at home or look after their children. Therefore, making sure that they have challenging assignments, mentoring, opportunities for growth. Finally, it's, I think, about the larger mindset of the organization, creating gender neutral policies and supporting infrastructure. For example, policies for adoption leave or fertility leave, creating daycare centers in our offices, but also in our manufacturing sites. Now that we've reached 50% in our managerial force, this isn't enough. We've made a commitment that we want to be 50% as an organization, and therefore the next bastion is to get into the front line. So women on shop floor, women in sales. Here the issues are much deeper because we have to work with governments, with communities, building basic infrastructure, tackling issues like safety. So it's a journey, but a really rewarding one, and we won't stop till we are fully gender balanced across the organization and our ecosystem.
Wonderful, good to know. And as pioneers, or I would say leading this whole change, obviously will inspire many other organizations. And I think women can then draw comfort from the fact that there is somebody who understands their challenges, and organizations do acknowledge it in the way that you talked about. Skilling and retailing workforce, you did talk about it and said, it's becoming obviously increasingly challenging, but you do, as you're part of the program, been able to get back your workforce that had taken a sabbatical or a leave due to maternity, etc. But now with the new world that's transforming, and the kind of the generation that's coming out, which is highly evolved, I would say, as compared to what we were, and the choices that they are wanting to make, and and how quickly they would like the results. That to be able to address that kind of a generation and to bring in that kind of workforce, for them to understand that skilling and nurturing them is something that will take time. How do you look at the newer set of generation today, and how do you see them becoming the women leaders as we imagine and we hope they will?
So I think, Swati, skilling is an opportunity across the workforce for men and for women. And we've said, I'll talk a little bit about how we are approaching it, and then what it means for women in particular. Whether you look at the World Economic Forum research, or any other survey, employees regularly feedback that learning, development, and future skills are the top most important factors for them to live in an organization. Like we said, it's been well researched that the ability to learn, unlearn, relearn, and reinvent ourselves is going to be the most important skill as we, sort of get ready for the next decade. And our consumers are transforming, our business models are transforming, and our employees have to transform. So as Unilever and as HUL, we've made a commitment that by 2025, we will upskill 100% of our workforce for future fit skills. And within this, there are a set of skills that we've sort of identified as data and digital, being familiar with STEM. And at HUL, we support each and every individual to create a future fit plan that is personal to them. And this looks not only at the skills, but also their holistic development, leadership, their purpose, and also their well-being and energy. Now, one of the strengths for HUL is this culture of leaders building leaders and lifelong learning. And this goes all the way from the boardroom to the front line. In our front line, for example, we've embarked on an ambitious project to change the skill mix from 30% skilled to 70% unskilled, to 70% skilled to 30% in the next few years. So these are some of the initiatives. We are looking at raising the floor and ceiling on data and digital skills for all our employees. When it comes to women, we know that women representation in areas like R&D, STEM, digital sciences is lower. And we have to create avenues. So we are working with universities and colleges where we hire for technical research and development to make sure that we partner in the curriculum. Equally, we've entered into a partnership where we are creating a digital ecosystem of women talent. And I think we have to feed much more because these are not areas where women have traditionally focused on, and we need to build the supply so that we have more women and more future fit skilled women in our ecosystem.
Okay, more women and more future skilled fit women that we are looking in our ecosystem. Absolutely. Very quickly, I would like to take your view or your message across to the young women who are joining the workforce with the hope that one day they can be what you are. What would be your advice to them?
So 3 things. The first I would say is find your purpose. Do something which you're truly passionate about and that really gets you out of bed. If that is closely aligned to what you do, even better. Like my purpose is to spark magic between people, their passion, and the opportunity. And this is very, very closely linked to what I do as a human resources leader. And this is what keeps me going every day. The second is build on your strengths. We spend too much time, and often as women, we often think about what we don't have or areas where we need to do better. But build on your strengths, build on your superpowers, acknowledge them, and be proud of them. And finally, like I spoke about, build resilience and capacity. Do this from an early stage. Don't self-select yourselves out. The more you do, the more you can do. And that's what I leave you with.
Wonderful. The more you do, the more you can do. Thank you so much, Anuradha, for sparing time and talking to us and giving us a perspective on what women can actually do. And thank you for inspiring us with your journey too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Swati.